Emerald enjoyed the moonlight by Jane Thayer. Emerald was a cat who lived with Mrs. Bucklestone. Whenever there came a beautiful moonlit night, Emerald liked to go out and enjoy the moonlight. He always had to go out alone because Mrs. Bucklestone didn't care for moonlight much. She liked television better. Emerald often watched television too. One night he was watching television with Mrs. Bucklestone when he happened to see the golden moon through the window. He decided he would not watch television any longer. He would go out and enjoy the moonlight. He went to the door and sat there. "Oh, all right," said Mrs. Bucklestone, and she let him out and went back to watching television. Emerald sat on the front steps with his paws tucked under, gazing at the golden moon. After a while, Mrs. Bucklestone's program was over. She did not like her darling kitty to stay out all night, especially on a frosty night like this one. So she went to the door and called, "Here, kitty." Emerald did not budge. He had not finished gazing at the golden moon. Mrs. Bucklestone went out on the step to bring him inside. "I believe I'll go down and see the moonlight on the lake," thought Emerald. He slipped off the step just as Mrs. Bucklestone reached down to pick him up. "Drat that cat," said Mrs. Bucklestone. Although there was moonlight, Emerald was black, and he blended with the shadows. Mrs. Bucklestone could only see the white tip of his tail. He went down the steps. She went down the steps to get him and take him in the house. "How lovely," thought Emerald. "She's going down to see the moonlight too." He switched his white-tipped tail out of her way and sauntered toward the lake. "Come here," called Mrs. Bucklestone. She hurried after him. She reached out for Emerald, caught her hair on a bush, and pulled out her hairpins. But she did not catch Emerald. "This is very pleasant, taking a walk in the moonlight," thought Emerald. He was delighted to have Mrs. Bucklestone's company. He turned to see if she was coming. "My hair is falling down," said Mrs. Bucklestone, trying to find her hairpin. "I can see your green eyes, you miserable cat." She reached out toward them, but she did not catch Emerald. Emerald skipped out of her way again. Mrs. Bucklestone could not see very well in the dark. She ran into another bush and caught her new dress on a branch. Rip went the dress. "My new dress is torn, you wretched cat," said Mrs. Bucklestone. Emerald was thoroughly enjoying his moonlight walk. He could see very well in the dark with his emerald eyes. He went along with Mrs. Bucklestone, trying to catch up. Soon Mrs. Bucklestone stepped on some brambles and felt a run start zip in her brand new stockings. "My hair is falling down, my new dress is torn, and there's a run now in my brand new stocking. If you don't come here, you'll be sorry," Mrs. Bucklestone shouted. Emerald ambled gaily along. Now he switched his white-tipped tail to tell her where he was. Now he flashed his emerald eyes in her direction. Mrs. Bucklestone caught the heel of her shoe in the roots of a tree. The shoe came off. She sat down on the ground and felt all around. Her hands got very dirty, but she did not find her shoe. Emerald waited politely. "I can't find my shoe," wailed Mrs. Bucklestone. She stood up. Emerald dodged out of the way. Mrs. Bucklestone stepped in a pool of water left by the rain. She got her foot without a shoe and her foot with a shoe, both soaking wet. That was enough. "You wretch of a cat! You can stay out all night. You can find some other place to live," Mrs. Bucklestone cried. "I've lost my shoe, my hands are dirty, my feet are soaking wet, my new dress is torn. There's a run in my brand new stocking, my hair is falling down, and I am freezing to death. I'm going into the house." Just then Emerald happened to glance up. In front of him he saw the lake and the golden moon through a shimmering path across the water. "Oh, that's beautiful," thought Emerald. "Oh, how I do enjoy the moonlight." He stood still, admiring the moonlight on the lake. Mrs. Bucklestone could not see Emerald, not even his white-tipped tail or his emerald eyes, but suddenly she saw the moonlight on the lake, too. "My," she thought in surprise, "that's beautiful." It was a long time since she had seen moonlight on the water, on account of watching television. Mrs. Bucklestone stood there freezing to death with one shoe missing, her feet soaking wet, her hands dirty, a run in her new stocking, a tear in her dress, and her hair falling down, feasting her eyes on the beautiful bright moonlight on the water. At last she turned around and limped toward the house in one shoe. Emerald turned his emerald eyes toward her. "I think I'll go home now," he thought. He went galloping ahead of Mrs. Bucklestone, showing the white tip of his tail to help her along. He ran up the steps. He waited at the door, purring pleasantly. He slipped through just ahead of her when she opened the door. He went into the kitchen. Emerald was hungry after his walk. He sat down in front of the refrigerator and waited for Mrs. Bucklestone to come and give him a snack. "You don't deserve a bite," said Mrs. Bucklestone, when she had washed her hands, put her dry slippers on, and pinned up her hair. So she opened the refrigerator and got out a can of crab meat, Emerald's favorite food. Then Mrs. Bucklestone made a pot of tea and some toast. She had her tea and toast at the kitchen table. Emerald ate his crab meat. "Well, all I can say to you," said Mrs. Bucklestone coldly, "is thank you so much for the moonlight walk." "You're welcome," said Emerald. Mrs. Bucklestone sipped her comforting hot tea. "That moon was beautiful, though," she said dreamily. "I might even take another walk in the moonlight sometime." She poured Emerald some milk. Emerald drank it. He washed his face. He told Mrs. Bucklestone he was so glad she had enjoyed the walk too, and he would be looking forward to another walk in the moonlight. The end.